Hey kids, what's going on? We are so excited that you decided to join us on our last week of this series, Wise. The big idea this week is that we can ask God our questions. So, I have a question for you. If you could ask God any question in the world, what would it be? So, on the count of 3, I want you to say that answer. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Shout it out! Awesome. Hey, we're so pumped that you decided to join us. But before we jump into our message, we're going to jump into a worship song called You Never Change. So let's get up, let's dance, and let's have some fun. Here we go.
Hey everyone, I'm glad you're here. Hey, what's your favorite thing to draw? I like to draw pizza and puppies and my family. But I have a really big family, so they're kind of hard to draw. Have you ever made something that was really hard to make? Well, in today's story, we'll meet a guy named Nehemiah who wanted to make something that was really hard to make. It wasn't a drawing, but let me tell you what it was. Nehemiah was from a city called Jerusalem, but he lived far away. When our story begins, Nehemiah was sad. He'd just heard from his brother that his hometown was in trouble. The people in Jerusalem didn't follow God like they used to, and the walls surrounding their city were falling down. This was hard news for Nehemiah to hear. He trusted God, but he didn't understand why the city he loved was crumbling like that. So Nehemiah went to the king he worked for and asked for permission to go home and lead his people in rebuilding Jerusalem. The king said, "Go!" and even gave Nehemiah help in making the long journey ahead of him. Rebuilding the walls was a big job. In fact, even though Nehemiah knew God wanted him to lead his people, he wasn't sure how to get it done. But Nehemiah trusted God. He said, "Okay, God, if this is going to happen, you'll have to tell me what to do next." And guess what? God heard Nehemiah's prayers and showed him what to do. Even when people doubted if Nehemiah knew what he was doing, he knew God was right there, helping him every time he had a question. Just like Nehemiah went to God when he wasn't sure what to do, we can ask God our questions too.
So Carl, how are you doing today?
Not doing too bad. I have a lot on my mind today.
Really? What do you mean?
I don't know if you know this about me, Cassie, but I am an intellectual. Intellectual.
An intellectual? Really?
I am a person of vast intelligence. My brain is so big that it's puzzled multiple doctors. Hundreds, actually. Hundreds.
I'm sure it has.
So I was sitting at home with my enormous brain, and I wrote down some questions I think we should discuss and ponder over. Converse, if you will.
Do you really feel like this is the best use of our time?
Too late! The copyright-free classical music is already playing in the background. How much deeper would the ocean be if sponges didn't live in there? Why doesn't glue stick to the inside of a bottle? Why do we drive on parkways and park on driveways? If a cow laughed, would milk come out of its nose? Why do skydivers wear helmets? Why does your nose run and your feet smell? Why don't your lips touch when you say the word touch, but they touch when you say the word separate?
Wow, that was...
Remarkable, life-changing, thought-provoking.
I was gonna say interesting, but sure.
I get it, Cassie. You're jealous of my ginormous brain and the questions it has created.
I don't know if that's true. Besides, those were good questions, but kind of silly.
Silly?
Yeah, did you have any more?
Well, sure, but I don't know about them.
Can I look?
Sure, I guess.
What's my purpose? What does it mean to live a good life? How can I learn to forgive? Wow, Carl, these are really good questions.
You think?
Of course, I think these are questions you should be asking God.
Wait, I can ask God questions?
Of course, have you never done that?
I don't think I have.
Well, let me tell you this, God would love to hear you ask those questions.
Really?
Yeah, and you never know. They might be answered in really cool ways, like Nehemiah.
What?
Nehemiah, from the Old Testament.
Oh, Nehemiah. I remember that story, but for the people watching who don't, how do you say, remember the story, how about you give like a brief recap for them, not for me, because I know it.
Okay, Carl. Well, a long time ago, there was a king, and the cupbearer of the king was named Nehemiah. And the walls of Nehemiah's hometown, Jerusalem, were broken down. They were in shambles.
What? That's awful. I mean, I knew that already.
It really was. Now, Nehemiah cared about his hometown so much that he prayed to God that he could return and help build the wall back.
Now that's a big question. Not only did he have to be the cupbearer to the king, but building a wall would be like a ton of work.
It would, but it meant a lot to Nehemiah, so he knew that he had to ask God about it. Once Nehemiah was around the king knew something was wrong and knew that Nehemiah wanted to ask him something. So the king asked Nehemiah what was on his mind.
Did he tell the king about his desires to go back to Jerusalem?
He did, but first he prayed to God about it. It was important to him that he asked God first, and then he asked the king.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
It was. It was even cooler that the king said yes. He was going to let Nehemiah go back and help build the wall.
No way, that's great. All because he just asked the question.
Yep, but it only worked out because Nehemiah asked God the question first. So God was actually with Nehemiah when he asked the king.
Well, I guess that answers one of my questions.
Which one was that?
Well, I've been wondering how I'm going to get answers to all my questions. I never thought about asking God, but I will now.
That's great to hear, Carl. I'm glad you know now that we can ask God our questions.
Well, hot dog, that's our big idea.
Today's big idea is we can ask God our questions.
That's right. And on the count of 3, let's all say it together. 1,
2,
3. We can ask God our questions. We can. God will answer. In one way or another. Right? Yes.
So what are you going to do with that big list of questions, Carl?
Well, I'm going to keep them, and I'm going to ask God the questions. Hopefully I can get some answers.
I bet you will. Maybe to even some of those silly ones.
Well, there you go again. There's nothing silly about this question. What cheese is the moon made out of?
Oh, I thought you already knew. The moon is made out of mozzarella.
Wait, what?
Bye, everyone.
We can eat the moon? It's made out of cheese.
Hey everyone, we are so glad that you joined us for our final week of our series called Wise. This week, we learned about how we can ask God our questions. Now before we go, we're going to read our memory verse one more time, but we are so excited to see your memory verse videos. All right, let's read it together. James 1 verse 5. If any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him. Now before we go, let's do one more song. So get ready, jump up, get ready to dance. Let's go right into With You.
You spoke a word and brought the world to light. Your voice still echoes through the darkest night. I could try my best to count the stars. Nothing could compare to who you are. With you, everything is brought to light. With you, everything comes back to life. You died to make me whole. I want the world to know. With you, nothing is impossible. You called my name and told these bones to rise. And with the breath you brought me back to life. I could try and do it my own way. Jesus, I know only you can save. With you, everything is brought to light. With you, everything comes back to life. You died to make me whole. I want the world to know. With you, nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible. When my world is upside down, when I can't find solid ground.